It's waiting, which we are in. So, hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Blockchat. This time, and I think it's for the first time, we have somebody live from the studio, from the same place, from our office at Blocksquare. And Makram is not with us today. This week he's a bit, sick. But we have a couple of things that Daniel and myself will be discussing. So at the very end of today's session, we'll be presenting the meme contest winners.
That's right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we will be talking about the upcoming release for version 03 of Oceanpoint, which is set, I believe, on the 27th of February, which is closing close by. I think it's on a Monday, and other stuff related to this subject. Daniel, it's great to have you here.
It's great to be here. Yeah, great to be here in your beautiful city, enjoying Ljubljana.
Yeah, you flew into Ljubljana a couple of days ago. How was it so far?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been
right.
very cold, but the sun's been shining.
All right.
So it's been very good. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the second time you're coming to Ljubljana, right?
That's right.
The first time was October, I believe.
Yeah, it was October, and that was the trip where Makram was here as well.
Exactly. The first time you saw Makram in 3D.
In 3D, that's right.
Yeah. We said today that it would be good to talk about more the risk aspect of DeFi in general, right?
Yeah, I think that'd be an interesting thing to talk about. I think as well, we could take this opportunity to talk about V3, and on behalf of the community, I can give you a bit of a quiz you on it, ask some questions from a community perspective, and try and get an understanding of what we can expect from it.
All right, perfect. Let's do that. I think with version 03, it's like there's a lot of people in our community that are more familiar with the aspect of being token holders than being liquidity providers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And decentralized infrastructure like Uniswap enables anybody to become essentially a market maker of sorts, right?
Absolutely.
Just by providing liquidity into that pool. And this is like something that's been around for some time. But maybe if we go more into the section of what challenges this represent to somebody that has never provided liquidity before, and maybe this is something that presents some kind of risks for them. What's your perception here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with the advent of DeFi, the proposal to be able to contribute to liquidity within the market in this way was new for a lot of people, and of course it comes with its own risks. There are certainly lots of benefits, and if correctly managed, it can be a huge benefit to individuals, but of course there's the risks as well. I would say the largest risk that people face is the impertinent loss which can come from being a liquidity provider. So of course, entering into a liquidity pool on Uniswap, for example, or any of these platforms, these DeFi exchanges, requires the input of the two tokens that sit within the asset pool. And then what can happen over time as the price changes respectively for each of those assets is that the value can change for each of those, meaning that when you were to exit the liquidity, you may leave with a different quantity of one asset compared to the other from when you entered the liquidity pool. So I think this has been it's not only a risk that people face in liquidity pools, but it's also one that it takes a while to wrap your head around, because it's a loss, but it's not a loss in the traditional sense.
There's this expression that people can Google, which is impermanent loss, and it's quite challenging for people to get their head around what does impermanent loss mean actually. And how would you put that for somebody who's engaging in providing liquidity for the first time? How would you phrase that? Or
yeah, I'm just trying to think of a good analogy that we could use to perhaps describe it.
Because you have, by providing liquidity, what you're doing is you're providing token 1 and token B into a pool, into a smart contract at a currently defined ratio based on the valuation of one or the other asset, right? So
exactly.
their respective ratios when you're making that deposit. So you need to hold both assets. That's the first thing. So
yes.
In the case of BST and ETH, you need to have some ETH and you need to have some BST.
Correct.
Right? And you're doing is at T plus 0, so today, right? But the impermanent loss is something that is realized, perhaps, at T plus 50.
Absolutely. So
what happens there?
So the realization of the impermanent loss really would happen when you came to the point of withdrawing that liquidity. So if you were to have put in, let's say, for argument's sake, 1 ETH and 10,000 BST, when you withdraw that at that future date, you will. The prices of those two assets may have changed. So though the value that you will be taking out will remain the same, it will mean that you may get more of one than you would of the other. Okay. So for example,
so if you're, let's put ourselves in the shoes of a BST holder, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have your bag of BST, and you say, okay, this is my long-term holdings. Now I want to provide, 1 ETH worth of, let's say, or a corresponding amount to 1 ETH. At the time I'm providing liquidity, I put that into the pool. Now, let's say there's obviously 2 routes this can go. One, there's more people buying BST. So your impermanent loss is because you get more ETH.
Absolutely. So in the case
at the T plus 50 or whatever time you decide to remove liquidity, you might end up with, 1.5 ETH, but obviously less BST, and thus, but the pricing of BST, because of that ratio changed, maybe increased in time. So now you lost on the value increase in BST that you would be making without providing that liquidity, but you were kind of compensated with the ETH side.
Exactly. So what happens there when the price of one of the assets in the pool goes up is that more of that asset has been taken out of the pool. So in the scenario of BST rising, there is now less BST in the pool and there's more ETH because people have taken out the BST and they've put in the ETH. So of course, this is how the impertinent loss comes about, because then when you take your liquidity out, though the value will be correct, it may be higher in ETH than it would BST. So this is a risk that I think members of the community are quite right to look into and to think about, because first of all, they're fans of BST. This is what they want to hold, and they'd hate to see their pile dissolve. So it's of course a risk that should be discussed, but this is really something that gets me excited about 0.3.
Do you think that you can mitigate risk, or that 0.3 mitigates some part of that impermanent loss risk? Because basically now we're having 500,000 BST going into 2 pools. One is the asset pool and one is the governance pool. With version 0.3, you're going to have half of this amount going to the liquidity staking pool, and the other half being split equally between the asset pool and the governance pool. So the APY on those 2 pools is going to decrease, but it's going to incentivize much more those who are going to engage in providing liquidity.
Absolutely.
So that compensation, do you think it might compensate enough for people to be kind of involved in that process of providing liquidity at the potential expense of impermanent loss?
Absolutely. I think it's a huge incentive with the doors opening up for being a liquidity provider. Um, this really opens the door, particularly with the staking of liquidity tokens through Oceanpoint, allows people to hedge impertinent loss on the upside of BST.
Mm-hmm.
So as we all anticipate, BST is only going one way. And in that future scenario, your impertinent loss would mean when we're removing your liquidity that your BST would have come down. However, with the ability to take your LP tokens and stake them through Oceanpoint in order to earn BST, you're effectively hedging that potential future impertinent loss.
So basically because there's this term that maybe people are not familiar with, which is kind of liquidity mining, as they call it, or right? And this is the process of taking your LP tokens that you receive on a Uniswap and locking them into another contract that gives you some kind of reward. And this is something that happened in DeFi quite often to boost liquidity for a permanent time, or for a limited time. And the reason for it is because impermanent loss, disincentivize people from engaging in providing liquidity at the expense of losing their hardly acquired new digital asset that they were buying and investing in and holding for a longer period of time before that liquidity pool came to the market. Now, if you put yourself in the shoes of a BST holder, right? Well, my take is it's wise to think of providing liquidity on a portion of your holdings, perhaps. Sure. Not going full in, because it's probably going to be then you are fully kind of opening up to the risk of impermanent loss. So kind of not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Approach. Yeah. I would say that would be a really smart approach, not to provide liquidity with the full extent of your holdings, but to use a portion of it. I think the other question that the community will be asking themselves is, what steps can I take to potentially hedge that potential future impertinent loss?
Okay.
And with 0.3, we really see the resources come around for people to be able to hedge that risk. So they're going to have the tools available to them to provide liquidity and actually have the resources to hedge some of these potential future risks, of course, through the process of liquidity mining, of staking their LP tokens. So I'd say these would be the main considerations for someone looking to provide liquidity. And I think they've really been addressed with version 0.3.
Here, maybe your touching point to one part, because what we're doing, we want to champion the ultimate goal of Oceanpoint is providing liquidity for tokenized real estate, right?
Absolutely.
Now here we're doing it with the BST token, etc., which is also obviously an integral part of the whole tokenomics around of how you can earn from tokenized real estate by holding crypto. But in the mechanics of locking up your LP tokens, so one part is acquiring LP tokens, and then there's another part which is staking them. The acquisition of LP tokens means you're depositing BST and ETH in this case into a liquidity pool on Uniswap, and people will be able to do that through the Uniswap interface that's provided. Obviously, there's going to be a link on Oceanpoint under that staking row. But then after you acquire these LP tokens, you need to deposit them into this staking liquidity pool staking contract, which, by the way, has been audited by Haken and has a 9.4 out of 10 score, which really proud of the tech team behind working day and night. And we added there a mechanism to boost your hedge.
Yeah, so I think this is a really exciting feature for the community and for liquidity miners and people that are going to choose to provide liquidity and then stake those LP tokens through Oceanpoint. I think this is a really exciting feature. So perhaps I could take the role of a new liquidity provider, and you can play the role of Dennis.
Okay.
and take me through what I could expect from staking and providing liquidity through V3.
So when you'll be interacting with Oceanpoint, once V03 is kind of there available, you get a third row that is active, which is for locking in LP tokens, Uniswap Uni version 2 LP tokens of the ETH BST pool. And you will be able to deposit those LP tokens to earn additional rewards. So providing liquidity gives you 0.3% out of each trade based on your share in that liquidity pool. So if you hold, 10% of the liquidity pool and the liquidity in the pool, and there's a certain trade, you get 10% of the 0.3 transaction.
Wow, sounds great.
So that's by standard.
Yeah.
The second part is you have the ability to lock these LP tokens. Now, we've added there this feature for long-term locking that kind of boosts your position in the liquidity staking row.
Wow.
So let's say you're providing, your LP tokens are representing $10,000 worth of liquidity. If you choose the minimum or no lock period, that's your share in the staking rewards.
Okay.
But if you lock them for a month, up to a year, there's a boost.
Oh.
And that boost kind of rewards your long-term position. So let's say that you are providing liquidity for a year, which is the maximum amount. You're going to get a 4x boost.
4x, wow.
In comparison to the liquidity provider that just can withdraw their liquidity tomorrow. So in this way, you can create different positions. As a liquidity provider, you can say, okay, I'm going to have some liquidity on the short term, so I'm flexible. I can withdraw it, I can sell it based on the market. But I can also have a long-term boost on another position.
Well, it's quite the incentive for long-term liquidity provisions, isn't it?
But there's, you're the head of risk, so you tell me what's the risk of time being in a position in an investment over time.
Oh, of course,
markets have changed. Things, ETH can go up, down. You are not able to exit those assets because you hold those LP tokens. You have locked them in. You can't sell them. So now, if the ETH market goes down, you won't be able to kind of react to that with your ETH and BST holdings, unfortunately.
Of course, I mean the idea of the time value of money is an idea that spans the whole financial industry, and essentially is that the longer your money is lent out or deposited somewhere else, the longer the period of time that you are away from your funds, the more you should be compensated for that. Because as time goes on and the time horizon increases, the uncertainty increases.
Yes.
So absolutely, you're right to say that for longer periods of time of being locked into a liquidity providing contract, the risks are of course going to, and the uncertainty, we should say, it's the uncertainty of the future and the unknowns, that is of course going to increase. But I think what we see there with the 4x boost, for example, for a year, a lock-in year, we really see the compensation for staking over a longer period of time. So we see that compensation for departing from your assets for a longer period. So of course this can really help offset some of that uncertainty. Then I think it's of course very important to consider what you'd said previous, that you should perhaps take positions across different timeframes. So having short-term positions that can be easily liquidated based on any number of reasons. And then also having the longer periods as well, the longer time frames. So really spreading out your positions to ensure that you're able to capitalize on the incentives for the long term, while also hedging your risk by having the short-term positions.
Here, I mean, you were also involved in the process of defining that boost factor, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And with its simulations, we played with different numbers, with and that kind of influenced as well the smart contract logic in the end of this. But there's as well here we have a smart contract for distributing staking rewards, and we have a fixed amount that is being deposited on a monthly basis, multiple times per day, obviously, but there's a fixed amount that is secured for the coming 5 years, which is 500,000 BST per month.
Yeah.
And then that hopefully will be boosted actually with BST buybacks from rental revenues, etc. Right?
Absolutely.
But defining that kind of boost mechanics, do you see that as an added value when you're thinking on other liquidity pools? So now we're talking about BST, ETH, but then you might have probably one of the next ones is going to be a stable coin and BST, like DAI, for instance. How do you see using that boosting feature for not 1 year periods, but maybe even longer periods of time, and maybe using it even to reward providing liquidity, outside of BST, with points, for instance, coming up at a certain level in time, a certain moment in time, and kind of using those same mechanics to distribute or create different risk level, different risk profile schemes that people can kind of then create their customized strategy on Oceanpoint.
Absolutely, I think that's a really interesting idea. I think I really like the idea of creating an offering for the community where they can really base their decisions on their own appetite for risk. They can do their own research, understand the risks involved, and have multiple options available to them. I think when it comes to liquidity providing for LP pools such as a stable coin with BST, this is of course a pool that would have significantly less risk than a pool such as ETH to BST, because now you're dealing with only one asset that has that volatility. So really their community members might feel like they want to provide liquidity on longer time frames, as you said, perhaps more than a year. So employing the strategy of the booster for that, I think would be a great offering for the community, and something that could definitely be looked into. Yeah,
especially maybe when you consider this stable pool type of combinations where you have points versus DAI versus USDC, where the impermanent loss conversation is basically more or less non-existent.
Absolutely, it's a very short conversation if at all, isn't it?
Exactly, and the the compensation in terms of BST doesn't have to be as high as where the risk is kind of higher. But on the other side, it's the mechanic that becomes really interesting when rental revenues start flowing into and being distributed, and the rewards are distributed from the rental income of the properties more than the supply or unminted supply of BST that is appropriated for rewards.
Absolutely, that'll be a really exciting time, and I think we'll see people very interested in the idea of liquidity providing there when there's sources of income coming into these pools from outside of the as you said, the minting of BST. Yeah,
which is in itself a limited supply token. It has 100 million mintable supply. Right now, I think we're around 17 million of tokens in circulation, which is 17% A total of 40 million is to be minted in around 6 years' time. So now there's another 5 years, because there's the 1 year anniversary of Oceanpoint coming up on the 22nd of February. And talking about anniversary, there's this meme contest that we had, and we wanted to have Julia make the announcement, but then we decided, because Daniel is here in Ljubljana today, we decided for Daniel having the honor of taking our community through the winners.
Yeah, well, you saw me sat here in the office laughing all afternoon at the meme, so it's very nice of you to give me the opportunity to read out the winners.
So for those who follow the meme contest, we had an immense response on Twitter. A lot of people submitted their memes. There was a lot of good ones. As always, there's a certain protocol we have in place. You need to provide the meme, but then you need to also to do the other actions, like tag someone, I believe, and so forth, and follow us, etc. And those who haven't really gone through the requirements, even if the meme was amazing, unfortunately we haven't put them in the finalists list. But we have, I believe, 5 winning categories.
That's right. So we've got five winning categories. The 5th category, and the first one that we'll read out, is related to the quiz that took place. And then following that, we've got four main winners of the meme competition. So without further ado, let's get started.
All right, perfect. So we have here the winners of the meme competition that was done in collaboration with NEAR, especially the NEAR Balkans Regional Hub. So the contest was the challenge was to create memes that kind of talk about either NEAR, Blocksquare, both together. So it was kind of really open of the story you want to tell. And we also had a quiz on our Discord channel, which we kind of invite you to join, because there's a really interesting community being built up there. A lot of conversations. If you want to stay in the know of what's happening within Blocksquare on a daily basis, that's the place to be. So let me. This is the meme challenge. This is the awards we're gonna basically award today. But as we said, we have now 5 categories, so we extended a bit just the 3 winners here. And the first category goes to the winners of the Discord quiz on what is NEAR. So
here we go, guys. We have the 7 winners of the NEAR quiz, which should be up on your screen at the moment. So we've got SMR91, congrats, MVG, QLoud, my apologies, EZ, how would you pronounce that, Dennis?
Yeah, it's a challenging one.
Yeah.
Israel?
Yeah, we'll go with that. Antrias4, Cosmos, and Vardel04. So congratulations to all of you.
So I think the action here, if you haven't done so, or you probably haven't, but because you didn't know that you won, is reach out through Discord to Julia, and she will guide you through, I believe, how to collect the reward, if any action is even required. I believe you will need a NEAR wallet. Next, we have our 4th winner, winning 15 near tokens and 500 BST. Here is,
and it's anti-dump design.
So let's, here's the link. We could watch it through, but it was an amazing video. You watched it, you were laughing.
It was incredible. Well, not only was it funny and just enjoyable to watch, but I was quite impressed by the magic in it as well. I was sat scratching my head a little bit on some parts. I don't know if that's my naivety or the ability of the magician, but either way, it was really entertaining. There was obviously a lot of effort that had been put in to this. It was really enjoyable to watch. It showed that this person really, is a big supporter.
We don't know because there's a mask, right? So we're not sure, but we have a hunch that they've been already in our previous meme contest.
Yes, my hunch was perhaps the gentleman with the cake who had baked the cake. And we'll go back and check that.
Yeah, we haven't checked.
We haven't
so
checked.
We don't know. Maybe we're totally wrong.
Be wrong.
But definitely congrats on the award. As always, come to our Discord, get in touch with Julia, and take it from there. Next is our third winner with 25 near and 500 NBST, which is near BST. And here we have, ta-da!
There we go. How do they get that picture of you, Dennis? So again, this one had both of us, and I'm sure everyone else laughing out loud. Sat here in the office this afternoon, just going through them another time, and yeah, just in stitches looking at this one. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. So we had a voting committee, of course, set on one side from Blocksquare teams and the other side, the near hub. So it was really hard to pick and just to get everybody on board on who the winners are. Honestly, I laughed to this one. I think 5 minutes in, all together jointly when we were on the call with, and then Julia said, this has to be your choice. Don't say anything else. So congrats on this one, and thanks for making the day for me.
Yeah, congrats. And that's Cosmos. I'm not sure we had said the name, but yeah, Cosmos is the author of that.
Exactly. So let's go with the next one. Here we have the second winner with 50 near and 1,000 NBST being awarded.
And it is Crypto Monsters. So we were both, everyone was blown away by this video and the effort that these young guys put into this. Absolutely incredible. Not only a huge amount of effort, but also quite a lot of artistic skill.
Exactly. So
it's really well done.
We've taken a look, have they done this before, etc. And we saw that, this is kind of a quite unique approach that they do, and what we loved about it is that the fact that they kind of customize it, they put everything in the same kind of it's not directly a meme, but we also took this kind of efforts in. It's definitely a video to watch, the making of. And it's on a wall. It's on a wall. I mean, it's brick and mortar.
Absolutely, everything from the video editing of the video, which if you haven't seen yet, you should really check it out because it's quite incredible. So everything from the video editing to the different designs, and as you said, we've got everything on the wall. You've got Near on there. You've got Blocksquare. You've got Oceanpoint. You've got the rocket, of course. You've got the buildings. They've really put a lot of thought and effort into this, and quite a lot of artistic skill. So, congrats to
exactly
to you guys.
And now we come to the first prize winner with 75 NEAR tokens and 1,500 NBST being sent to their wallet. And this is a video.
So yeah, congrats. This is Twitter handle Week Vikings, and it's absolutely hilarious meme.
I mean, you can't go wrong with Mr. Bean, right?
It works. It works.
But I think a lot of times I feel, how you do your memes, like the words you put in, it really then puts things into context. Like obviously this is things that are reused for different things.
Yeah.
But this one, I mean, you have to check out the video. We will be publishing this PPT on our Discord for sure. That you can just simply click there. So just come there to Discord, and you will be able to check the winners out and their contributions, posts and tweets, obviously. And but this one was really
absolutely hilarious. I think they just got it spot on with the wording, just the timing, the video they chose to use, because as we know, Mr. Bean has plenty of material out there, lots to choose from, but this one I just felt was incredibly well thought out, great wording used, and yeah, really on the nose, really good. Yeah.
So congrats to all the winners. Like I said, get in touch with Julia on Discord, and she will lead you to the process of claiming your reward. Now, we are at a bit less than 40 minutes. Maybe another, one of the topics that I want to touch before we kind of finish up today's episode. You've engaged with Blocksquare first as a member of our community.
That's right, absolutely. I was very much started off this journey as a member of the community. That's where it all started for me.
And as a member of the community, you've obviously started researching it, digging a bit deeper into it, etc. And then what made you, do the step of getting in touch, saying, hey, you know what? I want to be involved in this more actively. I want to actually contribute more actively to the DAO than just liking tweets. What made that decision? What was the moment, or
Yeah, so I touched upon this on last week's Spotlight, and really it started for me when I became familiar with blockchain and crypto, and started to look at potential use cases where I thought, in particular, industries which were slightly antiquated, where they were not reaching their full potential. And of course, real estate is one that I saw as a huge opportunity for enhancement and innovation with tech, because it's remained pretty much unchanged for a very, very long time. Around that same time, a member of the community, who's a friend of mine, started telling me about Blocksquare. At that point, I'd looked at various projects out there that were trying to tackle this one. And none of the ones that I saw, though admirable efforts, none of them had taken the approach that Blocksquare had and Oceanpoint. And I just thought it was great. I thought it was excellent. I wanted to be a member of the community. I wanted to support the project. And that really led to wanting to contribute to its success in whatever way I could. Just as we have members of the community with a wide range of skill sets, I looked at my skill sets, and I looked at Oceanpoint and Blocksquare, and thought, there's some expertise that I have here around risk, the identification and management of different risks, and the building of models for that management. And I thought, hey, perhaps I could really add some value here. So I reached out to yourself. We had an initial call. I believe I wrote a short proposal on the different areas of risk around property and how we could perhaps bring those risks on chain in terms of being able to identify them and measure them on chain. And that really led to where we are today.
Because I remember the first kind of conversations we had, and I know that we are a small team. That's the first thing, but we have a huge community.
Absolutely.
For a micro cap, a hugely involved community, I think.
Yeah.
And just this meme contest kind of proves what the point I'm trying to make. And within that community, there's a lot of people that in one way or another are looking at, how is the real estate industry or the real estate as an asset class going to be disrupted? What kind of things need to be in place for this to be done in the right way? And you were looking here at what we were doing from a totally different angle. You were looking at it from a risk perspective, which, Peter from within our team has a banking background or experience, but the rest of the team doesn't. While you had an experience from the banking sector.
Absolutely. So the bank,
and you brought this expertise or obviously your mind worked from that perspective, because that's the expertise and experience you had from a previous from your previous jobs in a way, or engagements, and you said, look, there's this decentralized organization that is being built. I can passively watch it, or I can be more active, and I was really glad to see you making that step, because now today, if I look at today how we perceive risk in tokenized assets like real estate, it's totally different than it was before. So the quality you've added to the team and the project in general, I think it brings us to a different level, definitely.
Oh, that's great. That's really nice to hear. But it's it's an area for me that I think is it's an area of passion for me in terms of risk and uncertainty, the theories behind it, and then the application of it within multiple industries. And what I think is really important, and also a responsibility of innovators in tech, is that when they take certain areas of antiquated industry, such as the innovations that Blocksquare has done with real estate, it's really important that we also look to develop the means by which we identify, measure, and manage those risks. Because though we can make the transacting of real estate more seamless and bring it on chain, the underlying risks of real estate very much remain the same, and it's about how we can bring that information and those risks on chain and allow investors and members of the community to have a really transparent view of what it is they're looking at. And that was something that I thought would be really important, and of course something that you guys have been focusing on a lot, and that's what's led us to here.
And in your kind of experience of working on Blocksquare, it's basically something that takes up X amount of time, but I believe we've created a kind of work environment, if you call it. Do you feel that it is kind of flexible in terms of your ability to provide time and mind power and for the things that need to be done, and it's kind of you're able to manage that time with kind of your let's say day job of sorts, or other things you do in life? Is that something that's
Absolutely. I found your approach and Blocksquare's culture around this, really welcoming, really flexible, and really, really accommodating. I think the message I would have to members of the community and participants of any community on a project like this or across the industry is that we may have this preconception of having to contribute, meaning that we would have to perhaps stop doing what we're currently doing and look to invest full time into something. Whereas the way we work these days and the culture, for example, that Blocksquare has built, if you're passionate and you have value to add, there's a way to do it in the time that you have available to you. And I've really felt that. Yeah, I've really felt that here.
Because I think many people have this constraint of engaging with Blocksquare, even though they have huge expertise, and they see, okay, but either I do one or I do the other.
Yeah,
I can't, do everything I do plus also contribute to Blocksquare. But on the other side, I know the real estate as a business, as a sector. Take real estate agents, for instance. A real estate agent obviously has a full-time job, but they have also a lot of expertise. And adding that expertise to a DAO through an engagement with a DAO, on a token basis, obviously, is basically it's an addition to what they do. So let's say that you're doing something quite successfully already, and then you want to add something to something that's exciting. Makram a lot of times says, I have two jobs. One is the most boring one in the world, which is buying and selling real estate. And then I have one that is, really one of the most exciting ones is like on the, cutting edge of innovation in terms of the real estate as an asset class, which is tokenization and Blocksquare.
Absolutely. I think that message is one that the community should really hear, that, as you said, people such as real estate agents, real estate brokers, but really people across all different industries where there are skills that they have that are easily transferable into creating value in a project such as this. You're able to contribute the time you have available. There's no one making demands for you to give up your day job and to focus on something full time. It's really the opportunity to take the time that you do have free and those skills that you're able to offer and contribute to creating value in a project.
That's kind of what a DAO, in a way,
absolutely
needs to be, right? It needs to be a way that is, or an environment that is flexible, so that everybody can contribute at different moments in time, in different capacities, based on their incentive. The challenge is how to get that incentive right, so that it's neither too small or too big for the particular member and its contribution.
Yeah.
So there must be a governance internally that kind of regulates that kind of distribution of incentive based on current requirements, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that's a really important aspect. And I think just to keep doing what you guys have been doing in terms of creating a culture where the doors are open for people with skills that want to create value, and a culture where constraints aren't going to be placed on people who generally want to contribute to the future of real estate.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for this last part we added. The reason why I wanted to bring this up is, and I wanted to talk with Daniel on blockchain about this topic, is because I'm a firm believer that we have people with so many skills and unique skills within our community who are already familiar with what Blocksquare is doing. And I think whenever we bring somebody new to the project, for instance, that happens a lot of times on the tech team side, right? You bring somebody new to it, and the first month or two, they just need to dig in. How does this all work, right? And this is challenging, right? Because they might not, they might see the vision, but they might grasp it, but then they might be either they might see this as this is too complicated for me, or it doesn't interest me, or they might dig it deeper into it. So there's always this process of onboarding somebody new to the team. Well, if that somebody new comes from within the community, then that onboarding process is done. It has already been done. And I think this is the strongest point of building DAOs is kind of leaving the onboarding process, not having it as an internal process within the core team, but as being an external process where anybody can do it at their own pace and acquire, in a way, incentive even through just purchasing a token of a project, and then saying, okay, my skill set would be ideal to improve this part. This is where I can really put value and add value to this, and then engage with the team and say, hey, I get everything, I know everything about what you guys are doing, it's amazing, I want to contribute more, and this is the value I can provide. And this is the type of engagement I wish to see within our community. I wish more people to actually come to us with that kind of attitude, so that we can bring or grow the expertise within Blocksquare, and it's beneficial to everybody on the long run.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, that members of the community have a real advantage in terms of being in a position to contribute. Not only does that transitional period that you mentioned, this onboarding period, reduce down to effectively a very, very short period, but also it's members of the community that are likely going to see things that others won't. They're members of the community. They know Oceanpoint inside out. They know Blocksquare inside out. They've used the various functions of Oceanpoint. They've listened to the various different spotlights and block chats, and they already have a really deep and a good understanding of everything. So that really puts them in a position of benefit in terms of being able to identify improvements that they can suggest, where their skills might be best placed, how they could contribute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of a really thing that might even be, a separate blockchain, just, mechanics of building a team throughout community engagement.
Yeah.
And it's probably something that hasn't been researched so much yet, because DAOs are a new way of basically building infrastructure, building project, building business in the end. And
organizational design.
And so far I must say that anyone who came to us from the community, we prioritized that type of engagement above others. So we are really easy to reach and just chat about your expertise. So please, think about it. Thanks, Daniel, for being with me on this blog chat. Thanks everybody for listening in, and congrats to all the winners of the meme contest.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Dennis. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.